Yeah, Sam, can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you. Really sorry that I got the time wrong here.
No problem. I thought you said EST time zone. I'm on same time zone as
Yep.
well. So,
No, it was.
yeah, so, yeah. First of all, thank you so much for joining this live and the basic or Twitter spaces. So, let me tell you my vision of this live spaces, let's call it spaces. I want to, I have some questions from community that they have asked. I have my questions. And we also want to learn something from this whole FTX saga. And I know it can be these can be tough questions for you, and but I think you are here, so you will answer these questions. And one more thing, I'll also make it a little bit bilingual, where if you explain something and it's a little bit technical or whatever, I will try to translate that in Hindi for
Yep.
the audience. I hope that's okay with you,
Absolutely.
right? Great. So my first question to you, Sam, is what led to this? I know we have read so many things, we have heard so many things,
Yep.
but from your perspective, and let's say if I'm running a company or any company, it can be any company, any business,
Yep.
what led to this? Because being very honest, I know like from initial days when FTX came to India, we have seen its growth, be with the FTT or be with the other things you brought to the market, be it the zero fee
Yep.
withdrawals, the things you did for the whole community. What changed so fast? What changed these things that FTX just collapsed overnight, and it was on the weekly or monthly support of $20 for example, FTT, everything came down. Well, it has to come down, but from the company perspective.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, um, you know, I feel really bad about what happened, and it's the last thing that I wanted to happen. Um, the basic answer is that Alameda had a big margin position open on FTX, and uh, it had gotten hit over the course of the year. Um, I was not paying nearly, as much, attention to this as I should have been. And then, over the last month, uh, and really particularly sort of in the wake of the, tweets at the beginning of uh, of November, uh, that position took a giant hit in a really short period of time, and there was a total run on the bank, and there was sort of a correlated, everything selling off pretty hard at the same time, which you know pushed that merchant position into a place where it wasn't going to be able to be sold off to be able to be liquidated effectively, and and generate what needed to be generated, and then at the same time, um uh that there was a run on the bank. Everyone was withdrawing all the funds that they had on the platform, something like $4 billion a day, and so we're going to need effectively immediate liquidity, for everything, and that wasn't going to be able to happen. And so, all of that happened over something like a 2 or 3 day period, at the start of November. And uh, you know, by the time we were even at November, 9th, um, uh, we had basically no ability to, no more ability to process many withdrawals. And um, we're, facing an absolutely massive liquidity crunch. And yeah,
But Sam, sorry, like the thing is here, like, and we as, let's say, I will just put myself as YouTuber, not
yep,
influencer or anything, or even a common person. We say you should never take money on loan to trade,
yep.
and here you took customers' money. Like, what exactly and why you did that? Though, like, you didn't feel bad about it, or like, not. I'm not even talking about from moral standards. If I even Google it today, it says you worth 26 billion. Well, used to. You never hired any CA or an accountant to check things, and you just, well, stole users' money.
So, um, uh,
And again, sorry for the hard
No,
question. I'm
I
just asking,
totally
like,
understand.
because if somebody, okay, so I used to respect you a lot. Let me just put it personally like this,
Yep,
not just because you're from MIT. I know what you did to Binance in a like a trading thing, and that's my personal opinion, right? But with all these things, you're saying you took margin and that money was not yours because you can do whatever with your money, take margin, lose that whole money, millions, billions of dollars. But why with the users' money who trusted you, who trusted FTX as like brand? Because this is, like what it created in the market, right? Not just that
yep.
it will create a crypto winter, but also maybe many people kill themselves. I'm not sure. I don't have the data, but how, like, what is this all about though?
I feel incredibly bad about what happened, and I had not been trying to do that. I hadn't been trying to take users' money. Um, I I wasn't running Alameda at the time. I hadn't been for a little while. Um, and uh, FTX had accounting on its side. It was, able to keep track of its finances, its own sort of corporate finances. But what there is a total failure of, effectively on FTX's side was risk management. Was someone who's looking at customer positions um, at the size, magnitude of those, what the risk of those were, what they'd look like under a crash scenario, and while I only had a lot of collateral posted, um, it was um, it was a position that wasn't going to be able to survive especially in retrospect, a very large, concentrated correlated market move, and so that was a huge failure on FTX's part, and it was a failure on my part not to be overseeing that, not to be um, making sure that there was someone who was chiefly responsible for that, for overseeing it. I was surprised at how big it was, and um, uh, and I had been mostly not paying attention to Alameda's
But
trading
how you
or
cannot pay
position.
attention, Sam? Like this is not like $10, $100.
I
Even for
know.
that, like even like today, if I even send like $100 to somebody or like
Yep.
$10 to somebody for giveaway, I pay attention, and I'm like I'm
Yep.
nobody in this whole thing. But you're saying you didn't pay attention that to with people's money. Like you have all these CAs, all this money to make things right, and
Yep.
then just saying I'm sorry or I was not paying attention, how you will compensate to those people who like lost
Yeah.
everything in this thing?
I mean, it's as you said, it's really bad, and it's a really, really big sort of, and it's a massive scale mistake. And I think, getting a bit less grounded. I think um, uh, I was not paying, I was spending way too much time uh, dealing with maybe isn't the right word, thinking about, new opportunities for FTX, thinking about extensions, thinking about what, what could happen, thinking about what, what sort of, uh, what the
So you're
future
saying
could hold on
you're
like an
thinking about
upside
like
position.
future expansion of FTX, but you left the core business to somebody or nobody?
Well, some parts of the core business I was still paying close attention to, but clearly not all of them. And there are a lot that I sort of, mostly neglected, and I think I left it to nobody as much as anything. I mean, I think um, uh, you know, in addition to, me not having, in addition to me not paying nearly enough attention to it, there also wasn't clearly someone who was in charge of doing that. It's not that I had delegated that in a clear way. I didn't do that either, and so specifically when it comes to position risk management on FTX internationally, there wasn't someone who was really chiefly empowered with overseeing that.
So you're
And
saying FTX, sorry about that. It's just my question. You're saying such a big organization, FTX, with like being number one in one, like someday, or number two, number three, whatever, right? With all that potential, you're saying nobody was managing the money properly, nobody was in the position to do that, and it was all vague. That's what you're saying?
From the perspective of customer positions, yeah, no one was chiefly in charge of that. Obviously, bits and pieces of that would get, you know, sort of ad hoc monitored in various ways. But there was no one uh, who ultimately was responsible, saw themselves as being responsible for customer position, for, risk
No, no,
management
no,
on
no,
those.
not for customer position. Let customer manage that. I'm talking about the money that customer had deposited to your account. I'm talking about that part.
Oh,
And you're talking about that part too, because we are talking about money. Because
right.
customer position, maybe you guys, I will not go there right now, that exchange do trade against the customer, they front run them. Let's not go there because you have all the data to do that, or any exchange has the data. My question is more about the money that were deposited, because the
Yeah,
liquidity crisis came in when you didn't
totally
have
hear
money
you.
to pay, right? There was a bank run, yes, but that should not have affected you. Like,
To-
okay, it's your money, take it. So you're saying there was no, like, a CFO that was taking care of it, or I don't know what you call in
oh,
your language for that, but
totally hear you. Um, so FTX didn't trade. It didn't trade against users itself, and
well,
there
Alameda did, because Alameda is mainly
right.
the trading firm, right?
Alameda was a trading firm. That's right, um, and FTX did have accounting for its own finances, for looking at its own corporate finances. The problem was that this was I mean, it was Alameda's position, but it was a customer position, and um, uh, most customers on FTX were doing some amount of margin trading, of posting collateral in order to put on a leverage position on a futures contract or a spot contract or something. Um, and what that means at the end of the day is that uh, most of the accounts, at least most of the large accounts on the exchange, were ended up short something, whether it's futures contract, whether it's spot, whether it's something else. And um, in order for that system to work, it should be the case that, if FTX had to margin call that, if FTX had to, come and effectively liquidate um, that position, that they could do so, selling off all of those assets on behalf of the customer, such that I could still generate all of the dollars, or whatever the short side was, or closing down the futures positions, such that that could all happen while the account was still net positive. That was sort of the core goal, that FTX was supposed to be able to meet there, and in this case, that obviously didn't happen. That wasn't possible, which was a huge, huge mistake. And the reason is that position was, it was too big, it was too illiquid, um, uh, and on top of those two, it was something which had correlated assets, which were liable to fall all at the same time, and all at the time that there was a lot of pressure on the exchange, and that
Talking
heightened the
about
risk
FET, for
further.
example, here, right?
Right, exactly. And so, um, it, from FTX's perspective, looked like, a customer putting on a position, but that position was was not reasonable from a risk management perspective, and ended up uh, not having sufficient liquidity.
But still, that it doesn't explain like how you can use users' money, right? But that's maybe an unanswered question.
So,
Like,
oh yeah, and I do uh, apologize for some of this because I'm still trying to look into part of what happened and don't have access to all of the data. Um, but on a margin trading platform, a lot of accounts have, effectively have short positions on, which means that, the total gross, value of all the long positions that users have is larger than the net total position people have on, because of those margin uh, positions. But again, that's supposed to happen in a way where everything could be closed down if needed.
Uh, anyway, like I think there are other people who can ask something along these lines better than me because I still don't understand how you can use users' money, but that's okay. Uh, what date? What date you came to know about all this, and why no proper communication from you till the last date, or like one day before that, prior to that, you guys were like, "Oh, we have enough money," and even the CEO of Alameda Research, she was like, "Okay, we will buy FTT on this on this price." Uh, what date you came to know about all these things? Because you said, oh, well, there is nobody who's taking care of it. What date, what month, what day you came to know about it?
And it was, in the wake of the crash that happened, we were frantically putting everything together, frantically doing a lot of the position and risk analysis on Alameda's account, particularly that obviously we should have carefully done a long time earlier. And um, uh, over the course of that few day period, and really over the first day or so, we came to understand what the actual, exact situation was. And over the course of that next day or two, um, it became clear that basically, the market moving around the bank were going to be large enough that it was going to be very difficult. Um, for us to be able to uh meet demand, and uh we started looking as quickly as we could to raise funds to do anything we could to try to be able to fill that demand. um and I really wish that I had communicated much more than I did. I should have done that. I should have just been communicating what I knew when I knew it. Um, I wasn't sure what to say. I was, uh, you know, not that it matters or is an excuse for this. I was under a lot of competing pressures from a lot of people on what and how to communicate there, and I ended up mostly sort of freezing up from a public communication perspective for a while, and uh, uh, that was, you know, that
No,
was in retrospect a mistake.
well, Sam, we cannot. People lost money here. They lost life. We
Yeah,
cannot just say mistake. I'm not sure. I have more questions to ask, but I will let Coffeezilla ask the question, and then we have other people too who want to ask questions. And I request everybody ask whatever question you have for Sam, but just let's use the right words. Right? I mean, when I say right words, no swearing, please. It's a request.
Sure. So yeah, I have a couple questions.